Hello and welcome to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
And before we dive into who our guest is today for the introduction, Joe is going to remind us of our show's purpose.
Yeah, our show's purpose is to connect Rotarians and non-Rotarians to service opportunities. And what we believe is to highlight great organizations, people, and different events by having them on the show, interviewing them, having them tell stories that are compelling and really rich about inspiring service and change.
Love it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have yet again another special guest on today, and his name is Brian Gower. I hope I did not completely just brutalize your last name there, Brian. Did I say it right?
It was perfect. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Nailed it.
Nailed
it's
it.
50-50, man. It's hilarious.
You should have seen us before too. Joe's like, is it Gower? Is it Gower? I was like, I think it's Gower.
I've heard it all. I've heard brain, getting the A and the I mixed up. I've heard Gower.
Yeah.
So you did great. Thank you.
I love it.
And it is funny. We do have always a moment on every show where we're like, oh, name, we made it.
So Brian is the Senior Director for Foundations and Partnerships through World Vision United States. And we are honored to have you on and excited to learn a little bit more about partnerships with World Vision and Rotary and how all of that works. Because there's a lot. I mean, it's like peeling back an onion, for lack of better words. So thank you for taking the time to join us today and share a little bit more about what you do and World Vision as well.
Sure. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course. So we always like to get to know our guests and have the opportunity for our listeners to learn more about you as well. And so let's start with this. Where are you born? Where were you born?
So I was born in the good old state of Texas, in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Deep in the heart of Texas.
Wow.
You're welcome, everybody. So then you're now in Washington, though. So can you give us a little quick synopsis of how you got from Texas to Washington?
Yeah, I born and raised in Houston, Texas for the first 8 to 9 years of my life. That's where my parents had met, going to Baylor University. And my mom's family is from Texas and dad's family is from Tennessee. And so there's been generations of family members that have been in the oil and gas industry. And my dad was working for a company and got the opportunity to move to the San Francisco Bay Area in California to work for Pacific Gas and Electric. And so he moved the whole family out to California, again, when I was around 9 years old.
Busy. So from Texas to California, and
I'm going to guess a few things happened between 9 and
yeah.
You look at least 25.
Yeah. So how did you make your way from California to Seattle?
So what brought me up to the Seattle, Washington area was the organization that I've been with now for over 16 years. I never thought I'd be with one organization for that long. That's World Vision. And World Vision has its U.S. headquarters just south of Seattle in the city of Federal Way. And when I was in California, I had finished my master's. I got an MBA with emphasis on international development. So it's applying business to topics like water and sanitation and hygiene and health and nutrition and economic empowerment, things like that. And I was working for a grant writing company at the time in California and was their director of operations. And an opportunity opened up with World Vision, and the interview process began. I think that was probably the longest interview process I've ever been through in my life. That's probably why I don't want to jump ship now. But
you made it out unscathed, hopefully.
Yeah. Finally got over the fence after 3 months of talking with them. Oh my gosh! And moved up to Seattle in 2007, and as they say, the rest is history.
Okay. I want to back up a second because some of our listeners know this already, just based off of having previous individuals on here as guests through World Vision. But are you a Rotarian? I'm going to help connect the dots for
Yes, I
our
am a
listeners.
Rotarian, and so
Okay.
I am with the Rotary Club of Federal Way that happens to be just a mile away from our U.S. headquarters in Federal Way as well. And so I've been a
That's
Rotarian for the last about 3.5 years.
3.5 years. Okay. So my next question was going to be, was it because of Rotary that you made that plunge into employment with World Vision?
Sounds like
Or,
the other way.
yeah, definitely the other way around.
It
Okay.
was a little bit of the other way around, where I was around a bunch of colleagues in World Vision and didn't realize that there was this whole other family of Rotarians that shared a similar DNA and are also part of the crazy group of wanting to do service projects at all cost. And so I'm like, okay, this is the kind of, these are my peeps. These are the ones I want to be with. And so that was
Mhm.
part of it. Yeah.
Well, and what really compelled you to go into nonprofit work?
Oh goodness, I I always start back when I was actually really young in grade school. I was in the fifth grade, and typical in that time, you're asked to do a book report, and I
Mhm.
was looking for a book to read, and started going through the bookcase in my parents' family room, and grabbed this book that I'd never seen or heard before, and it was called The Compassionate Touch, and it was about a couple who had moved to Calcutta, India, and they were working with orphans that didn't have any parents, and lepers that were kind of the outcast, and just, you know, helping to care for them and feed for them and love on them. And reading that book at a young age was a trying to process that and think, well, goodness gracious, how in the heck did I end up being born in the United States, where I get so much, and I'm reading about these other kids, and so yeah, it was the beginning of a launch into, well, how can I get a career that is just focused on giving back and making a difference in the lives of others, and so
Here you are.
That's
You,
that's
you,
really cool.
I think it's interesting. Not only are you really realizing that component of it with just there's so much of the world that doesn't have the things that we have, but also you married it with your education. I mean, it was
Mhm.
right in line with what you studied, pretty much.
Yeah, not a lot of people are lucky enough to say that they graduate and continue to
well,
utilize that
what's interesting is that I,
degree.
yeah, what's interesting is that, you by law you got to go to school, and as soon as I was done with high school, I'm like, I'm out of here, and I did an exchange program of living in India for almost a couple of years, and I didn't have any, bachelors or graduates, and I'm working with young people and going out to the villages, and I was living with a family, and I'm like, oh my goodness, they don't take for granted education. I mean, you get some of the most high tech doctors and IT people, and I just was like, okay, this is great that I want to be able to help people out and all, but I think there's something I can learn from these people, and I came back to the U.S. and finished up my education. Yeah.
That's funny
That
too. Yeah.
that's well thoughtful.
Well, and it's so
Very thoughtful.
it's so interesting. One of the real main connection pieces between a lot of our guests are that they've either done an exchange of some kind
Mhm.
where they've
Mhm.
lived somewhere else for a period of time, or they've hosted, but they've had their perspective expanded dramatically of
Yeah.
what the world's about. And it really seems to compel a lot of people to do more service, because you just see the disparity in
Mhm.
what we have versus what the rest of the world has. And it's laughable, because like the things that the majority of the world worries about, we don't, period.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to ask, like, of the time that you have been a Rotarian, what has been your favorite service project?
Oh, well, what's so unique, or what I really count as a privilege, is that the combination of my day job at World Vision, because I also, within the strategic partnerships team that I'm on, am the point of contact for working with Rotary on all projects that
Yeah.
Rotary asked World Vision to be a collaborating partner on. And so I think that the most exciting service project that I've been part of is the first year programs of scale that Rotary launched about
Mhm.
3 to 4 years ago, and it's been focused in Zambia, and it's all about trying to address malaria and treat malaria and eventually eradicate malaria in the country, in the same kind of way that Rotary has had that same kind of um, passion, but has done so much in the area of polio. So
Right.
it's, yeah, that's been a really fun service project to be part of.
This will be a really nice opportunity for us to segue into our next segment and talk a little bit more about World Vision. So maybe give a brief recap of what World Vision is, and then the connection point to Rotary. And we'll talk a little bit more about what your role is. How's that sound?
That
Sounds
sounds
amazing.
great.
Wonderful.
I can't wait.
Sounds good. All right. As a reminder, you are listening to Searching for Service. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
We'll see you in the next segment.
We'll be right back.
Hello, and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
As a reminder, you can find us on your favorite podcast platforms and
like, comment, share, and then if you're looking for us, go ahead and input Searching for Service and you'll find us. And don't forget about our YouTube page.
yeah, we hit all of the marks there.
All of them.
If you are tuning in for the first time, we have Brian Gower on. He's the Senior Director for Foundations and Partnerships with World Vision of United States. And so we got to know Brian a little bit better in the last segment. So I encourage you to go back and listen to that because it was really wonderful getting to know him. But in this segment, we are going to dive into a brief overview of World Vision and then really Brian's role that he does with World Vision. So Brian, would you care to share with our listeners, what is World Vision?
It's not the eyeglass type of place. We have the word vision in it, but it's World Vision. And we're a global humanitarian organization that is dedicated working with children and families and their communities worldwide, really having a desire to see especially children reach their full potential and helping to tackle all the causes of poverty and injustice. Very similar to Rotary, we focus at the grassroots level, doing long-term community development work. We are in communities for at least 15 years and have a number of different projects. We refer many times to the puzzles of poverty. You can't really address it with just one thing. It can't just be education. You also need to think about the access to clean water. You have to think about the ability to get jobs. So there's that part of the development work, and there's also emergency relief operations, which is another part of World Vision's work when you have these big hurricanes or earthquakes and major devastation. So we are serving about 100 million people right now in nearly 100 countries, including our own backyard here in the United States. And one of the things that I've loved about working with World Vision is that we serve all people, regardless of religion or race, ethnicity, and gender. And I've held a number of different roles in World Vision over my 16 years that allows me to not just talk about this, but I've seen a lot, have worked in a number of countries with World Vision. So that's a little bit of a nutshell. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
no,
love
it's
it.
great.
So we had Kim Lorenz on.
Yeah, I believe it was Kim
on,
Lorenz.
Yeah, on the show, who's the liaison from Rotary to World Vision.
That's right.
Correct. And then, so
Yes.
my guess is you probably know him.
Kim is a great friend, great Rotarian, and he is also one that you'll remember perhaps from the podcast that has written an award-winning book. He's
Yep.
just been an incredible entrepreneur and successful in business. And I always love to be able to learn from people like Kim, and I consider him a mentor. Yeah.
Well, Kim, if you're listening, sorry, I do just want to drop this note real quick. If you're listening, I did download your book.
Supporting the cause. Yeah.
Yes.
And one thing I do want to touch on from that interview that was really cool, and I'm excited to expand on that, are the programs of scale. Like, we talk so much about, local projects and even international projects that are, we build half a dozen filters for a village or a community, and we take them there, and there's some sustainability to that. But hearing these projects of scale where they're 4 to 400,000, 800,000, 2 million, 5 million, huge dollars, huge impact, but also huge complexity. I mean, that's where the partnership comes in, where we can leverage each other's strengths as organizations. So maybe talk a little bit more about some of those strategic partnerships that World Vision has, not only with Rotary but with other organizations as well.
Absolutely. I would just say that one of the things I think are always really key about partnerships, and partnerships can be interpreted, it almost is a buzzword. It's almost like when we say we love something. Well, goodness, gosh, that word love can be used in so many different forms. But partnerships, for me, is beyond the transactional. It's beyond just what can I get from you and you get from me. It's really trying to understand each other, other organizations, understanding Rotary really feeling like, do you get us? Do you really know us? Which was part of my journey to becoming a Rotarian as well, and vice versa. And then being able to bring comparable strengths and uniqueness to the table. And I would say that one of the things that World Vision has been really good at is doing programs at scale, but then recognizing if you're going to do something at scale, you're never going to truly tackle and address the core problem with just one organization. You really need other organizations as well. And so that has been what has propelled World Vision over the years to work with a number of partners. One example is that in our water, sanitation, and hygiene work that you heard some about from Kim, I believe, we're reaching over 3 million people a year that have not received access to clean water. And we look at efficiencies and how to be able to get the types of supplies and the parts that you need. And one of those very commonly used parts is we do a lot of mechanized systems where solar power is allowing water to come up from the ground and be able to go through miles and miles of pipeline, and you need a submergible pump. And so one example is that we're partnered with the largest pump manufacturer in the world, which is called Grundfos. And Grundfos, as part of their wanting to give back and collaborate, have a special arrangement with World Vision where we get pumps from them that go into almost all of our wash projects worldwide. But that's just an example. I mean, again, there's so many other partnerships that we do. Sesame Street is a fun one, and Rotary and many others. And so, yeah.
Well, and it's interesting too, and maybe this answer is, when World Vision was scaling and starting to figure out that they were really good at these projects of scale, my guess is they probably tried to do these on their own initially, and then went, hey, why are we, it's like any other business. Why am I doing everything myself? Why don't I leverage the resources around me and other partners that specialize and do things better than we could ever imagine? Or it would just be so much energy and time and money to get to the point where these other groups are. Why don't we just try to figure out a partnership instead? Or do you?
Yeah, there's been a lot of examples. I mean, I hear it all the time where there had been a a project that Rotary would take on, and they're into the implementation of actually doing the work in a developing country, and then come to a stopping point and be like, oh, we didn't realize that you needed this and you needed that, or
Mhm.
what
Yeah.
we're not getting the involvement from the government to come and help us to fix this or fix that. And we're like, well, did you establish an agreement or a memorandum of understanding with these entities?
A
No, we
what?
forgot that. Oh, what did you use this particular type of part that's not going to rust or decay? Oh, no, we got the cheaper one over here. And so
Uh,
it's just
I
it's
thought
I
what
think we're all learning, and sometimes we
yeah.
hate
yeah.
to talk about that. Part of why you finally come to needing one another in partnerships and thinking beyond ourselves, and I say this too for World Vision, is because of failures, and we never like
Mhm.
to talk about that. But it's on both sides of the fence.
Well, and one of the other things that came out of the interview with Kim that I thought was really interesting is and we don't think about it is sometimes these clubs will raise a ton of money, and all of a sudden they don't have the bandwidth. And this is where World Vision has been so helpful with Rotary is you guys are just well reversed or well hearsed or
Rehearsed. Yeah.
you guys just
First.
are experts in doing those types of scaled up projects where these clubs have no idea. They're like, wait a second here,
Well, they don't know what they don't know, right? And so it's, this is where World Vision can enter in and kind of take the reins and run with
Yeah,
it.
I think that one of the things that we found in a number, we've done so many global grants at large scale with Rotary, and one of the things that we've recognized is that you can have a lot of great heart, a lot of great ambition, but World Vision, like Rotary, does have the boots on the ground. We're there, our staff are
Mhm.
on the ground, but they're paid professionals in their full day job in these areas.
Mhm.
And so we operate like a business in these countries. We have a whole supply chain in the country. You have experts that know how to operate the drill rigs. You have others that know how to work on the education front. And so I think that the business side and the process side has been a complement to Rotary's just great passion and desire to connect and influence and mobilize. So that's just been another great example of the now I'm
Yeah, right.
trying to get my words out. Complementary skills. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I have nothing.
You're a host and have nothing.
I know.
You have a lot. You have a lot to offer. First of all, we just have 30 seconds here. We're probably just going to segue into our next segment.
Mhm.
But it's nice to know what we're talking about in terms of what World Vision does, what your role has been, and then so in this next segment, we'll just go into some of the strategic partnerships. We'll
Yeah.
we'll talk about some stories, and we're just excited to hear more about the organization.
Lots to cover. Thank you for listening to Searching for Service. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
We'll see you in the next segment.
We'll be right back.
Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
As a reminder, you can find us on your favorite podcast platforms and
like, comment, give us a 5-star review. We do love those. And you can find us by searching for Service.
I apologize, Brian. This is an ongoing thing, and it sounds like you've listened to previous podcasts, so you understand, right?
Absolutely.
Ongoing thing.
I miss Chad. Chad
Yeah.
usually falls on that bullet.
Yeah. All right. So we have Brian Gower on. He's the Senior Director for Foundations and Partnerships with World Vision here in the United States. And so we've gotten a rundown of World Vision, what they do, how they accomplish it. And now we want to talk a little bit more in depth about the partnership with Rotary itself and just partnerships in general. So we dabbled a little bit with that, but let's go deeper with that, Brian. And I think that you can kind of help facilitate with learning a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I want to maybe pick up from the last segment because we were
Yeah.
talking about one of the things that World Vision is known for is just doing really large projects. I mean, when just
Yeah.
in one particular area of the country, we call that an area program, and that encompasses 30 to 50,000 people. And some of the countries like Zambia, we've got up to 40 of those. And so we're covering large areas doing multi-million dollar projects. And so when we've been in partnership with Rotary now for over 22 years, and we've been doing, for most part, global grants. And World Vision has had a vision for a long time that we would like to be able to do larger scale service projects with Rotary. Um, and I mentioned earlier that sometimes people have different perceptions of partnerships. And I can remember earlier on us talking with some of the leaders in Rotary International, expressing this desire that, hey, it's great that we're doing global grants, but we'd like to do even something bigger. And some of these folks had almost fallen out of their chair when they said something bigger, because they said World Vision is already pushing us to do $800,000 global grants. Is that not considered big? Most of our global grants are like 50 to 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
And we responded to say, we want to be doing multi-million dollar grants together that are being able to really address the big issues that we're talking about, like polio, like malaria, and water sanitation, hygiene, and others. And so it's taken years of doing these global grants that are definitely large for Rotary. And during that period of time, really being able on the World Vision side to be able to say, hey, we're going to be with you, even on the global grants, but we have a bigger focus, a bigger vision, a bigger priority. But it takes both kind of aligning to that. And it was, again, about 3 or 4 years ago, where the leadership in Rotary said, we want to harness all the great things that Rotary is doing around the world, especially in the area like polio, and start, trying to see what would that look like in other areas. And so being able to be part of the first year programs of scale, which was a $6 million opportunity compared to 800,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're getting to where we want to go. And I think that sometimes it just takes time of being able to, not say prove yourself, but to be able to really stick with a partner and to be able to build that trust and to really show that genuine desire. No, you really do understand us. You really do get us. And so to come to that point of then doing a programs of scale at that kind of scale,
Yeah.
that was where there was more alignment than ever before in us being able to really do something big.
Well, and I suppose it's a lot about flipping the mindset too, because you think about Rotary as a structure, and like one of the greatest things about it is it diffuses down to the club level so well.
Yeah.
And like we get all of these many little things that group together that become enormous. And that's been Rotary's bread and butter is, hey, let's do a $2,000 project here, $2,000 project there. You add up thousands of those and it's enormous impact. Sometimes, and we even run into this, like we think about this show where we, our goal, or we now reach thousands of people. We want to reach millions of people. It's the same scale up, right? Like,
Yeah.
and sometimes going up the chain is difficult because the systems just aren't in place, and having partnerships like World Vision for Rotary has got to be so helpful, where the natural mechanism of Rotary is to disperse down the chain to the clubs. Whereas like World Vision comes alongside and goes, hey guys, we could actually do some really, really big stuff, and we just go this way.
Yeah.
I think that that's so cool. And that's a really great partnership for Rotary, because it doesn't require a structural change in Rotary, but versus just a strategic partnership in World Vision to help facilitate all of that change and to be thinking about those huge projects. And then what's interesting, and I'm sure that you guys are finding, is now that you've kind of cracked that that ceiling. I'm sure now it's going up and up and up, and they're like, why? Well, let's do 60 million. Come on.
Oh my God. Did we hear from Kim Lorenz, like because the partnership has been in place for 22 years, correct? How did that partnership come to fruition? Did we hear that story, or do you happen to know that story, Brian? And could
had to happen over a beer.
Yeah.
It always starts there, Joe. Yeah,
All right, glass
exactly.
of wine. I'll be classy, glass of wine.
So the funny thing is that since both organizations are large, it all comes down to relationships and friendships. And I am sure that it was a Rotarian coming across somebody within World Vision, and again, finding that common area of interest, but just connecting and bonding. And it was then an opportunity of somebody within a club, probably a president or maybe a district governor or PDG, that had basically says, we want to invite World Vision to be a collaborating partner on doing a water sanitation hygiene project. That's where it started. And if I'm not mistaken, Kim has told me that first one was in Gulu, Uganda, back in 2002. And so but it all
the rest they say is history.
Yeah.
There's probably more to the story, Joe, in regards to the beer and all of that. But
maybe it was over a beer.
Well,
Who knows?
And here's my thing usually with partnerships and things like that is they usually come out of necessity. So I could see where Rotary got over their skis somewhere.
Yeah.
And it was it was like, hey, we need help. And then we were connected to somebody within World Vision that then helped. And then like, oh, this was really nice.
This worked out real good.
We should
continue this.
But
the interesting thing too is that Rotary for years and years has been doing global grants, and there was nothing even thought of a new program called Programs of Scale. That was completely new. And I think when you're talking about partnerships and you want to maybe take it to another level, there's sometimes that human side of like, am I going to be losing something? You know, is somebody going to be taking something away from me? Well, this is the way it's always been done. And I think that one of the really exciting things for myself, but also for World Vision, is just to see how organizations evolve, and they're willing to take risk, and they're willing to kind of put themselves out. But it's through, again, the 22 plus years of building trust. Like, we stuck with you, you stuck with us. It's been messy at times. There's been failures at times, but we can be able to do this together. So,
and I just think I go back to the Rotary structure is it's a double-edged sword, right? And you just can't help but World Vision was just such a perfect partnership in terms of scaling up versus diffusing down. And so it just makes total sense. And I remember when we had Kim on, I'm like, I don't even think that way, because you're always thinking so local, so hyper local with Rotary. And, maybe you go to the district level, or, maybe you go to a global grant, but it's not that huge, massive impact where we're talking about, hey, let's do $100 million project, and this is how we can do that.
Right.
where it seems like you really took, like, that partnership seems to have taken that lid off. And now we're starting to think about those things. And you said that we're 3 years into Programs of Scale. Is that correct?
From the time it started, we're now in we're about halfway through in the third year. So the final year of the Programs of Scale. Yeah.
Well, and maybe talk to us a little bit about how those are going.
Yeah, it's interesting when there was the application process, which was extremely competitive. Even though World Vision had been good friends, we've been partners with Rotary for the 20-something years. The decision to have World Vision come in as a partner on that started off with some really high intense interviews of being put into the hot seat. And you have this whole panel of Rotarians firing off a bunch of questions. And my colleague,
But
Eric.
you were already prepared. You already went through the.
Yeah.
Well, you see, at the time, I was in another role, but still supporting Rotary, but I was not the point of contact. I had my other contact, Eric, who took the hot seat on that one, and I came in after the fact when it got awarded.
Hire slow, fire fast, right?
Yeah, but the way it's evolved from the time of it being like, okay, you're on one side of the table, I'm on the other side of the table, versus, since that time we had a meeting in Zambia where World Vision and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Rotary, all of our headquarters, the key staff from our headquarters all met in Zambia. And it's something always so interesting that happens when you travel with somebody else. And that is that you're out of your comfort zone. You're out of your kind of your own little space, and you're having to share that space with another person. You're eating with them. You're on the bus with them. You learn of their quirks. And so those are the things.
We're gonna leave our audience with a little twist.
Teaser,
we're gonna finish that story in the next segment.
Great.
You're listening to Searching for Service. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk. We'll be right back.
Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
Oh, I should probably mention our show is brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960.
It sure is.
But as a reminder, you can find us on your favorite podcast platforms and
comment, share, 5-star reviews.
And you can look up Searching for Service to find our shows on any of your favorite podcast platforms.
Awesome.
Thanks.
And Brian, you just witnessed what it's like being on radio, right there. We're up
like
against
a fire drill.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Peace out, hombre.
And we always, it's so disappointing. We hate cutting people off. It is absolutely the worst, but here we are. So thanks.
We created a cliffhanger though, didn't we?
Yeah,
we did.
Everybody's been hanging on. No, we should probably get back to the story.
Right. So you're talking about traveling and how everyone is getting outside of their comfort zones, right? In many more ways than one. So go ahead.
That's right. Well, it's moving from being behind your desk or your cubicle or at home in your own space, kind of having that separation of distance, to you're all coming together. You're in a developing country together, and it moves from more transactional to more of like trust being built and friendships and getting to know one another and learning more of the human side of people. I can't tell you how many times I've found in partnerships, but just in everyday occurrences, that you ask somebody how they're doing and it's just a very high level. Oh, I'm doing fine.
Yeah.
But have you ever actually taken the time to listen to somebody's story
Mm-hmm.
and where they've come from and to better appreciate? And it's a lot of times on those trips or over meals where you could put titles aside, you could put organizations aside, and you connect with that person. And that's really what took place on that first trip to Zambia together as organizations. Is you get to know people's quirks, what they eat, what they don't like, and we just make light of it.
Time management habits, I'm sure.
That's right. So one of the things that came out of that first trip, and I'm not going to use any names here, but it was because what we say is what happens in Zambia or in a country stays there. But it was just really funny. We would be having to go long distances from the capital city of Lusaka out to the actual project sites. So you're sitting on a bus and you're getting what they call an African massage. I mean, you are bumping up and down, left and right. I mean, there is no way it's anything of like a smooth Lexus type of kind of ride,
Mm-hmm.
You are just moving around and you're again on a bus. So you're sitting next to people. And I had this one gal that very high level person in one of the organizations, and we're both sitting together and we're just going on, and there's no way that I could even think about closing my eyes and sleep, and she is just out cold, and I'm thinking, okay, either the jet lag is really doing something there and it's going to take a while, but then I come to find out, oh no, she sleeps all the time anyway. I mean, she's kind of known as being the cat. I mean, it's just like no matter what.
Like, does she have what's it called, narcolepsy?
You would think so, but I mean, I just use that as an example, and then just to wrap myself out, people recognize that I can pack it when it comes to eating, and so as a group, we would go to to dinner and stuff, and people would still have some left over on their plate, and they would
You
soon
gonna eat
start, Brian, yeah, you want that? And then they've learned, oh yeah, I won't hesitate.
that?
So it's, you know, it's through that you do build trust, and you build understanding, and what you see that other people don't get to see that is so special, and I think becomes a bit of a catalyst too for being able to go deeper and kind of let go and be able to find what the potential of what a really neat partnership can be. And
And one of the things that I'm always fascinated by, I mean, I'm in sales, like we all sell, like everybody sells.
Yeah.
Is the thing that typically will get people to connect with you is usually the most obscure thing. It's not, oh my gosh, you've got this perfect process and system and your track record. It's, oh, you've got a cat? I've got a cat. Oh, you're like, are you serious? So, to your point is, I think the takeaway that I took from that is when you're in uncomfortable situations, you typically listen more because you're not in that place of superior confidence where you just tell everybody how it is that you're kind of like, is this are you good? I'm good. Like, tell me a little bit, tell me we're okay.
That's right. And then you build on what you learn as people become vulnerable and start to share things, so that when you then jump onto a business call, you're not jumping right into the business. It's like, oh, how's your brother doing? I remember you telling me, that you were having to help take care of him because of something this or that. And so that's the way it is. And I think that that's something that I've learned from working in international development, is that our field staff, they are so communal, and we are so linear and can, categorize. We got to do business right now. But I can't have a conversation with a lot of the countries that I work with, 100 countries around the world, without first start saying, how is your family doing? Oh, how are your cows doing? I mean, it's just, you have to kind of really, and it's not just like checking the box. They really are genuinely wanting to know that. So,
yeah. Well, and just meeting people where they are too.
Yeah,
like, I think that's a big thing. So fast forward to your story. You guys are obviously awarded, or like Rotary decides to partnership with World Vision. Let me ask, where do you see this partnership going? And, we're still in the early stages of implementing the programs of scale. Like, do you have a personal aspiration that you would love to see from this relationship?
Yeah, I think it was the whole idea that you were, Joe, alluding to earlier. Well, if we think we're doing something big, is that the ceiling, or can we take a winning partnership in Zambia around the amplifying and working with Rotarians on what they do really well when it comes to eliminating malaria, and World Vision helping on some of the business aspects, with financial management and having professional staff. Can we take that to other countries? Can we do this even larger? And again, that's been part of our aspiration, is that we want to tackle some of the world's greatest problems with organizations like Rotary, with the Gates Foundation, with others. And so malaria is just one example. There is, again, the issue of water, sanitation, hygiene. The areas of focus for Rotary just so line up well with World Vision. And to answer your question, I'd be excited to be able to see this program in Zambia expand into many other countries, and it be multi-million. But it always is going to push us beyond what we think in front of us. Are we going to be able to do that? So that's where I'm excited to see where this goes.
Do you have any idea what it would cost to expand that program into, say, like, I don't know, however many more countries, or do we have an idea of what that project has been costing?
I see a little smirk, Brian.
I always like to throw numbers out there because I think it's an important thing to do. You got to put it out into the universe.
Yeah. I think that one of the things that Rotary and World Vision and the Gates Foundation have learned in Zambia is that you can't look at all of the resources coming from abroad, from the U.S. How do you empower these governments and the role that they play in putting skin in the game and looking at all the different actors and all the different funding mechanisms? one of the other big projects that we've done with Rotary, and we talk about high numbers, is again water, sanitation, hygiene. And Kim talked about how, gosh, over 70% of the partnerships have been in that space with Rotary.
Mm-hmm.
And we just recently launched a new program that is looking at providing water to every single man, woman, and child in the places that World Vision works. And we've been working with Rotary in Zambia and Honduras. And just in Honduras alone, just in the areas that World Vision works, we're saying it would take $60 million.
Okay.
Yeah. For malaria, I think that there's so many components, but yeah, we're talking millions and millions of dollars, but it shouldn't dissuade us in terms of the kind of impact that we can be able to do together.
Well, if anything, it should really motivate us, because, maybe we're doing some of these $6-8 million projects, but to really make the difference that we're setting out to do, I mean, we've got to 10x that at least to even make a dent. So I like that. Because again, I like that we keep kind of raising that bar and thinking further into the future and going, we can do more. We can continue to do more.
Yeah. About 1 year into the program in Zambia with Rotary, the programs of scale, World Vision did a whole write-up that went into an annual report, and we highlighted this, and we got different testimonials. And we did get a testimonial from John Huco, the Rotary General Secretary and CEO. And what he wrote was, I think getting to your question, Joe, he says, like our longstanding polio eradication effort, the partnership in Zambia today with Rotary, World Vision, and the Gates Foundation is not only a blueprint for transformative public health projects, it also offers a long-term vision of the collaboration we need to address hard and systemic problems in a post-COVID world. These problems require great boldness to tackle, but also the humble admission that we can't tackle them alone, and we must identify proven methods to catalyze the sustainable change that we need.
That's like the mic drop.
It totally is.
Nice little bow on this interview.
It totally is.
I think that just speaks such volumes to the partnership between Rotary and World Vision. And thank you so much for being on the show today. This has been really fun, and
I loved it.
I wish we had 6 more hours to go.
Well, thank you guys for making this so much fun.
We need more time. Thank you again, Brian. We appreciate you as our guest on today. As a reminder, you're listening to Searching for Service. As a reminder, it's time to stop searching
and start serving.